back with our team training for the week. We are going to keep doing these as often as we can. We're going to be moving them to Thursdays as well. Thursdays at noon. That just works better. We typically do all of our client check-ins on Tuesdays, and so this makes more sense to kind of zoom out a little bit. Everybody's had a little bit of time to do some deep work sessions during the week, and so I want to just kind of chat about a couple things that we're working on. We have been there's just a lot. There's a lot that's changing. So what I'm going to try to do is just spend just a few minutes kind of showing you what's changed since last week. Like what are some things I'm messing with, and then we'll jump into some examples. Uh, Mainly, we'll talk about like how we've been using MCP servers now for the Innova dashboard. I'll show you a little bit of that here. So let me switch over to my demo here. Um, we now added MCP to our Innova dashboard. This has been super helpful. And so now, when you are in Claude Code or whatever, you can actually spin up, uh, you connect to MCP, connect to the server here, and we have access to all of the projects and clients now inside of your favorite LLM. You can get project details, status, billing status, things like that. We can read the framing docs, and then of course you can go into and actually pull down the task grid, so you can get through like manage looking at the slices, tasks. You can create, edit, move, delete, slide tasks, and even flag things as unknown. So the cool thing here is we can search for a project, pull down the frame, and then basically build out the tasks for that project using Claude. So you're not having to click in and do that, because we get so used to having AI do things for us in 2026 now, that sitting there and clicking into a task grid and typing out a task just feels like a caveman. So we wanted to automate all that and help at least get kind of the first version of it together. And one thing that we're doing, which I'm really liking, is that we're able to build um, our process into this MCP. So when you pull down a project and you start working on tasks and it doesn't have a framing doc, it's going to let you know that we need a framing doc before we can keep moving on this. And then I'll pull up. I think we had one that was the pull request. We did this project. Um, for a client, and we had a little framing doc here, and then we went through and built out this little task grid, and so it broke the project into some slices for us and pulled tasks. So this was just sort of a, you know we just did a one shot prompt on this to get it to build out. Because of course you can keep editing it and changing it and manipulating it, and the idea would be that you would connect this to your existing workflow. So if I were to go start working on this slice, I might pull down that slice from the task grid into my terminal, go ahead and plan out the changes I want to make, and then as you build it, it can go and update the status. So it starts to check off the items here as it works through that. And you may even have it like as it's planning it out, you can just tell it, hey, also update the task grid. We may find 4 or 5 other tasks here that we didn't know we needed once we actually get to working on it. So I think this will become like a really beautiful UI of what is actually going on in the project in real time, as the as you're working through tasks and pushing, changes and stuff. So I'm really excited about task grid. We'll also add it to the framing doc. The reason I haven't completely gone all in on the framing MCP just yet, you can pull it down, but I'm also wanting to make sure that we bake in all of our Claude skill that we talked about in a previous video. We did a whole training just on this Claude skill we created, and of course, you can take that skill and put it into any um, LLM you want, but that will allow you to uh, basically take an idea for a project and then get it much more fleshed out. I'll grab one that we did recently. So if I go to um, this project here, we have a new client. We did a bunch of framing here for approval, and I think these all went through that framing skill and task grid and all of that, and we had to do it across 4 different projects. And you'll kind of see once it comes out, the that skill, it kind of has a certain look to it. There's a little bit of text to introduce, what's broken today, why now. These are all things that we've heard from Ryan and others on uh, as far as how to get something really, really tight. It's also being very antagonistic and not just agreeing with everything that you say. So a lot of times, like we'll start listing things here that might be a feature, and it's very quick to say like, "Hey, you have put a feature as an outcome." That is not what outcomes are. Outcomes are like a little bit more general, and they're more concrete, and we can say that, "Hey, we arrived at this outcome," versus like, you know, adding a specific dashboard view, um, as a feature there. You can kind of add that, and it feels easy. Like, oh yeah, we do want the dashboard feature, but we need to be like a little more specific on how we build those outcomes. So these are going to add guardrails to our entire process, which is very exciting, so we can actually bake in these skills to the MCP. So when you start pulling it down, you start working on it, even if you don't have that Claude skill handy, you can basically use whatever LLM to reference that skill, and we'll essentially provide that as context when you connect into the MCP. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about where we're headed with it. We'll keep adding more features here, so I'll update them on this page, and you guys can create your own key and pull those down and test it out. And there's a bunch of instructions here to get it connected to whatever LLM you want. So that's MCP. That's what we've been doing there, and it is going to be really cool because we have access to projects. Everything is being currently imported into uh, this Supabase database. So we have all of our timesheets, we have all of our Notion projects are getting imported. So when you have access to the MCP, you actually have access to everything in Notion, and you also have access to everything in Toggle as well. So there's a lot of things we're going to start to do as we let's say, want to use the MCP to create a client update. Well, now it knows that all these tasks got created, and when they got completed, it knows what time tracking what happened with this project. It knows maybe comments that happened in Notion, and we can basically have it write an email for us pretty quickly inside of the terminal. So that's kind of where we're headed with it long term. And this we're very good. Also, I just gotta say, like, we've been building this dashboard for a few months, and you've been hearing me talk about it for months. It took me like 90 minutes to get the MCP spun up. Like, it was insane how fast it came together. So what a time to be alive. I think I was talking to Janata this week, and we're like, it's just insane. Like the pace at how fast things are moving, you just have to be experimenting every single week with something. So this week was me setting up the MCP. The other thing we're going to talk about next is, of course, OpenClaw, which has broke the internet recently. And if you are living under a rock and don't know what OpenClaw is, this is by Peter. And I love this tweet just because it was like his little history here is like sell his company for $100 million, spend 3 years, become jacked, uh, uh, come back from retirement. He vibe coded 43 failed projects. Number 44 was Claudebot, goes viral. Anthropic, of course, sends trademark lawsuit, renamed it to Moltbot. They hacked their accounts, rebranded to OpenClaw. 180 gift cards get acquired by OpenAI. And then you have, I think one of the other ones I saw is like, Sam Altman calls you a AI genius or something. I think was the final like bullet point on there. And who knows how much. I think you try to find the figure, but it's multiple billions of dollars that they used to acquire this open source project. So pretty crazy time to be alive. And so, like, if you're kind of wondering, like, okay, what is OpenClaw? How does it work? It essentially is just taking an LLM and giving it full access to a machine. It could be your local machine, not recommended. It could be a virtual private server. There's a lot of ways to set it up. So yesterday I did that on our side, and I did everything on a DigitalOcean droplet. And we have like an Innovo VPN through NordLayer. So what I did is I basically just whitelisted only that IP, and we also put in like a firewall layer. So there's a DigitalOcean um, firewall as well here that we set up. And so this is how I'm using it at the moment. And the way that I'm essentially working with this, I will connect through my, SSH here directly through the VPN, through all this to this, and it's all whitelisted. It's pretty safe. And the other thing I'm doing, of course, is just I'm using a Slack Slack bot to just talk to it here. So I'm getting over a cold, so I'm gonna have to mute every now and again. So Slackbot just chats directly with OpenClaw that we're running here. Um, and I locked it down in a number of different ways. Because one of the things, if you guys are playing with this stuff, like this you are playing with fire. So like this is you can easily give it a lot of control and it can go off and do things on your behalf. So be very careful to like give it, your Gmail access. Give it careful to give it like, sensitive information. I saw there's like one password integration. Um, I'm not testing it with one password. Uh, so yeah, Greg said, "Don't give anything to OpenClaw that you wouldn't just post publicly on Twitter." That's a good example. If you're setting up, so we set up something here where we use the Sentry MCP server. We use Sentry for our logging, and so what I did is I created like a read only uh, API key. Oh my gosh, my typing is hard today. And then we can basically use just that read-only API key to talk to Sentry, for example. Um, we did that as well for GitHub. So I have GitHub here, and I created basically a read-only, and then I had to actually have it do a write here, and then I gave it some permissions. This is TBD to say like, you're not allowed to, I think I said not allowed to, commit to master or whatever, unless I specifically give you like an instruction. So it's saying that it's going to stick with that. I don't know if it's going to stick with that. We'll see. Um, and so basically creating these layers of security is great because this means that it can only use this MCP to read what's going on in Sentry and get information from it. And then this allows it to essentially talk through this API key to GitHub. And I've been extremely locked down on like I'm only testing it on like one repo right now. So I'm just saying this to the team as well. Please test it. Please play with things. Do it safely because this is like not only our company's data, but sometimes it's our clients' data. And so just make sure things are locked down very tightly. I don't recommend at all running it on our local machine. I explored those options. I know there's some safe ways to do it, but this seemed like the safest way for me. And we were already using DigitalOcean for all of our hosting, so this made a lot of sense. And it took me about 2 hours to set this all up. Um, and then once I got it connected in Slack, I've been chatting with it and it's been working pretty well. So my little test yesterday was I had it go out and look at Tribe and like pull a bunch of things down and say, hey, what are some of the errors that you're seeing there? And I think let me see if I can find the chat history and just show it to you in Slack how this actually went down. Um, because also I blew through a few million tokens very quickly because I was like, let's just use Opus 4.6 on everything. Like why would, or Sonnet or whatever the 4.6 version is, the latest Claude. I was like, this will be great. Use it through the API. I've never really hit any limits. Turns out that if you're on the max plan on Claude and you're in the terminal, there is no limit. That's why I've never hit a limit. As soon as you start using the API, you run through credits super fast. So I think I spent like $25 in like maybe 30 minutes. And then I hit a limit. Again, I've been so paranoid by it that I have rate limits on our Anthropic account. I have a separate workspace for it. I have different limits put on it. So as soon as it hit 25, I didn't go and bill like, $2,500. At least I got an email and Anthropic cut off my API key. So then I was able to go and like set it up a bit better. So let me grab, this would be cool to show you guys kind of the flow. Let me see if I can share it. Let's replace this window right in here. So the way that it's working right now is in my Slack account. So I have Nova, I'm calling it, and let's see here. So we got it set up, and I basically just prompted it to set up the MCP server itself. Then it went and grabbed these issues. It pulled some like random network issues. We also had a ton of like downtime in one of our clients, and it created a little like list of things that it found. And then I said, hey, can you filter for a specific environment, which I don't think it really did. That's okay. And it provided links to things so I could jump in and like go and look at those specific issues. I said, okay, let's look at one. Root cause is clear. It's very optimistic at this point. It goes and like spits out a bunch of code. And I was like, I asked about context. We were still around 138 thousand. And then also it was very specific that it's kind of managing context on its own. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but you don't really have a lot of, especially through Slack, to like start and end sessions from what I can see. Um, so he said just message me like normal. Okay, let's keep going through this. And then we set up this. I'm just making sure I'm actually not sharing my. So I didn't. Here's the thing. Like I didn't put my access token in the chat. Okay, like that's telling it the key. But what I did do is I can add it to the config file. So I go back to my shell and go into terminal and sorry, the SSH, and I connect into the server directly, and then I give it some instruction to put into the config, so it knows that it can use that um, if needed. So far, so good. Again, I still have it as a read only, so it's pretty safe. Um, and then it basically goes through and finds some issues. This is really boring. Basically, where I got to was the cool thing here is kind of thinking of this as a 24/7 um, uh, team member. So I would never, like I was telling Luchin today, like both of us would never go in and fix the thing that it fixed. It's not really like a breaking issue. It's just that there happens to be all these like errors in there. Hopefully it'll fix it up. But it wasn't even worth our time to really go explore this. But it's totally worth a bot's time to go explore this. So what we did is I said, hey, like go ahead and push this change in. And then a couple times a day, just go and check on this issue and see if what you're doing is fixing it. So it can kind of learn from it. So I would never tell anyone on our team to go and check something 3, 4 times a day, but I would totally tell this thing to go do it. And so it's basically did that. And we went back and forth on a lot of different things. And then let me just see where we got. Um, Asked it to do a little recap of everything it did for the day. And then I was asking it about how we could share this bot. Basically, we can't share. Let me just get to the end. Um, so then we also currently have a DigitalOcean had some downtime. So I just shared the link with it. It went and grabbed the issues here, and it's going to basically continue to check on DigitalOcean status for me. And then once it sees that DigitalOcean's good and it's deployed, then it will come back and start the sentry checks. And it's just going to check those logs every couple hours for me. And then if it sees something that's useful, it's just going to report back. So I just wanted to show this whole flow, and I'm like deep in the weeds of how I'm using it, and it's also very fresh. But the shift here is not, I'm not like prompting it and it gives me information back. I'm prompting it to go off and do a bunch of things, and it's going to keep doing that until I tell it to stop. Um, and I'm going to forget about it, and then it's going to come back to me and start the conversation. Said, "Hey, I want to bring this to your attention. I know I saw this." So it's kind of changing the way that we have conversations with AI a little bit, because it is this like living, breathing thing. Um, so that's kind of how I'm using it at the moment. I thought it'd be helpful to kind of like diagram it. Again, I'm a little bit into this, less than 24 hours, but we're totally starting to see the impact of it. Obviously, you can keep stacking these, um, more and more. There is a great DigitalOcean article on like how to set OpenClaw up, and I actually just took that article and fed it to Claude, and I ran Claude in this SELI, and we basically just it read the document, it created the plan, and then we pulled up terminal and basically prompted it that way. I think I did use the DigitalOcean MCP for Claude to go set the droplet up. So Claude essentially assisted me in setting up OpenClaw. Um, so that was very helpful, and uh, that's how I would recommend doing it. Just look for that article if you want to do it in DigitalOcean. I just used that because we were already paying for DigitalOcean, and I didn't want to go set up a brand new account somewhere else. Um, but lots of free ways. If you're not wanting to do any of that, there's a great tool called Emergent that basically lets you fire it up kind of like a Lovable style, where you just plug it in and you can be up and running in 2 minutes. Uh, Again, you still have to be conscious of all the security stuff, but a lot more user friendly if you don't want to be in the terminal hacking around and stuff. So um, it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be coding. This, I've mentioned this 100 times, but I'm going to say it every time we do a call. Like we have spent so long, like doing, um, being this like the development process is actually getting much simpler to build things. Um, So where we would by focusing on these two sides of it, where you're framing, you're prototyping, we're doing task grids. This is the really like the human strategy side is getting to this point of clarity. Once we got that clarity, of course, just using AI to build all these things, fix whatever, deploy stuff. Um, that's where we need it to bug fix, to monitor, error reports, things like that can all happen on this side, and that's all coming from the agent side. So what we're trying to do is build platform which kind of combines those two things, where we can kind of put the framing stuff in through our dashboard. We can put um, you know information with the task grid. We're also starting to add transcripts of all of our calls with customers or all of our framing sessions. So we have that as context as well. So those things will start to will start to show up not just in the MCP side, but in the content. Like we'll start to store that as part of the database here of the platform. And so it's you've gotta be experimenting with stuff, don't fall behind, like, you can go a couple weeks and all of a sudden you feel like you're a few months or a year behind, but just be experimenting with stuff, just be trying new things. The models are getting better every week. um, we do have to, like, invest a little bit in this, like, these tools some of these tools are not free, but even if we're spending, like, I think our company's spending well over 1,000, $2,000 a month on AI stuff. That's still our lowest paying employee by a long shot. And so, like, the amount of work and movement we can have with very little money isn't crazy. I mean, it's hard because like you're looking at like, oh, do I spend $20 on Claude or $99 on Claude? Like, it seems a lot when you think of it as a personal level. What you think as a company and what that's allowing you to do, what Claude like is allowing me to do as a founder to work on our apps to build all this stuff out, and I'm using it, I don't know how much pretty much a few hours every single day. For $99 is insane. Like it is insane. It's the highest value, lowest cost thing in our entire company. Um, and so like I'd probably pay it if it was like maybe 10 or $15,000 a month. I'd probably still pay it. So at $100 a month, it's just like absolutely insane. And maybe I'm like the old guy who's like, man, this technology is like so amazing, but it is super incredible, and I'm still uh, loving all the pieces of it. Um, so very cool. Okay, so I think we'll probably end there. I had one other tweet to show you that I saw from Jason, which was super cool. Is that they're adding potentially having like CLI control for Basecamp and Hey at some point, which is going to be amazing. Because unfortunately, as far as I can tell, like Hey is kind of locked off from all this because you know, it's not a standardized email tool. So it'd be cool if you can plug Hey into all of this cool diagram and have your email be context as well. So cool. We'll end it there, and then we're just going to chat as a team. But yeah, hope